What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you looking to improve your skills and level up in the game of business? Are you a second or third generation business owner? Are you a millennial? These are some of the things that I've been dealing with, is learning how to take my skill sets and teach other people how to do the same things that I've been able to do. So I was able to actually, I discovered last year that I was able to quit my family business, and that was the hardest decision of my life. And I've been, the last 8-9 years since I woke up from the fact that I was actually living my life, I was kind of on sleep mode. I was just kind of like a robot going through life aimlessly. And ever since Tony Robbins actually woke me up is kind of the metaphor that I use. And I realized that I was in charge of my own life. And ever since then, I've been trying to level up like crazy. And started off with me trying to get in an MBA program, got accepted, family business roped me back in, and I started doing sales. So I moved from operations into sales at that point. And after about 6 years of doing sales for the family biz, I was at this point, this junction in my life where I had a new baby, and I didn't want to live a life of regrets. And I made the hard decision to actually quit my family business. Probably the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. And yet at the same time, it's inspired me to want to help other people to make those tough decisions. And maybe you don't want to leave your family business, that's fine. Maybe you just want to start a side hustle, or maybe you want to get a different job or career change. And those are hard decisions, especially when we've got a comfort bubble or a security nest, so to speak, that we've been inclined to rely on as a source. And sometimes we rely so much on the source that we almost don't believe in ourselves and our own ability to make sure that we're going to be okay. And especially when you've got assets, or I don't know what you would call it, like family assets, I guess, like having a kid or having multiple children that are relying on you and your solo income for basic survival. And yet I don't believe as a human being that we're meant to live at a level of survival. I believe we're supposed to thrive, not just survive. And sometimes we have to take risks. And I think taking those risks is actually one of the best things that we can do to fully live our life. And I've been taking risks probably my whole life, but more consciously over the last 9 years. After I was accepted to an MBA program and felt obligated at the same time to say no, even though I worked so hard for that GMAT precursor test. It's kind of like the LSAT is for law school, the GMAT's for business school. I worked so hard on that thing. And yet was, felt obligated to stay with the family business and not go pursue an MBA, which, I still kind of, I don't want to say I regret it, because I feel like I've got a lot of business experience, because right around the same time I joined a network marketing company. And here's the thing, being in a family business, my dad was always so busy working in the business that he never taught me how to actually run a business. And I think that's probably a common thing amongst family business, second generation, third generation business owners. And that was something that I struggled with. And so I realized that I needed to learn skills in how to run a business. And so for that reason, I joined a network marketing MLM and essentially learned how to run a business. And I already had ideas of, how to do different things and buy property and things like that. And it's been great. It's been able to create a little bit of freedom, a little bit of a buffer. But at the same time, now I'm working on these new ventures, like my podcast and this YouTube channel. And, I'm building an online coaching business now. And it's like, these things are scary and it's hard. And I don't know how to video edit. I don't know some of these skills. I don't know how to set up a funnel online with ClickFunnels or Infusionsoft or Confusionsoft, as I heard it's called before, or Kajabi, or, all these different tools. And I'm learning about all these, and it's so unique and it's different. But I'm enjoying it because I'm learning new things and I'm creating more awareness. And one of the things that I think about, and the question that I have for you is, are you an entrepreneur? And maybe you're not right now, but the reason why I asked that question is, and I hope you sit with that for a minute, are you an entrepreneur? Ask yourself, take a minute after this show, pause it. Don't just go on to the next show. Hit the pause button even right now and just ask yourself, am I an entrepreneur? And here's my answer. Here's what I believe. I believe that not everybody is an entrepreneur. I believe that not everybody has what it takes to be an entrepreneur. However, because nature versus nurture, right? Some people just don't have that gene. Some people don't have that gene nurtured if they do have the gene. And some people just don't want to be an entrepreneur. And that's totally cool. But I think most of us, if not nearly all of us, have the potential to be an entrepreneur. It's just whether or not we nurture that trait or those traits to actually help us develop some of the skill sets and, more importantly, the mindset or the psychology to actually be not only an entrepreneur, but a successful entrepreneur, right? I've heard this term serial entrepreneur, and I thought that sounded kind of cool. And then somebody said to me, they're like, oh, well, serial entrepreneur just means that you haven't been really successful in any single business. And I'm like, oh, don't. Like, that's a totally Homer Simpson moment. It's like, oh man, revelation, right? But at the same time, I think it's cool to have a side hustle, right? You don't want too many side hustles. And so I'm kind of struggling with, okay, well, what's my main business and what's my side hustle? And just learning about the multimedia and marketing and, speaking of mass media and coming down to that entrepreneurial mindset, I believe that most of us are fed this belief that we have to go to school, get a good education, to get a good job, to pitter patter through the rest of our life. And I think so many people accept that, but they don't need to. And I think most people are unconscious of the fact that they don't need to live like that. Maybe some people are happy doing that, and that's totally cool, man. But I also believe that we all have unlimited potential, and I want to help people maximize that potential. And so, as it pertains to mass media, most people get fed this fear, and we think that, oh no, if we go outside of the norm, then we're gonna have this trouble and insecurity and yet I believe the more different types of knowledge that you consume, the more awareness you're going to create. And so I kind of think the difference of mass media would be mass perspective, because media typically just feeds you one thing. It's called fear, right? But mass perspective. And so the analogy that I want to share is there's this speed reader, and you could consider any speed reader, but if there was a speed reader who could read a book really quickly, and let's just say you read one book, and let's use the example religion. So if you read the Bible or the Quran, you would have a kind of a singular vision of what is religion. But if you read 30 different books on religion, primary and secondary sources, you're going to have a lot of a different perspective on what is God truly, because I think religion is just the worship of a godlike figure, right? And that's totally cool, because I think most of us need to develop a belief in ourselves, and sometimes it is easier for us to think of that belief coming from an all omniscient a creator type figure. And so taking one source versus multiple sources. I think when you just take one source, you kind of fall into line like a sheeple. Sheeple, they just kind of going about kind of grazing their way through life. And that was me up until Tony Robbins kind of, metaphorically slapped me across the face and woke me up to the fact that I'm living my life. And if I don't go start making some courageous risks, obviously calculated, but courageous, then I'm not going to truly live to my potential. And I think it's so important for all of us to live to our potential. And I'm going to give people a break, benefit of the doubt. If they don't want to live to their potential, no worries, man. All good. No judgment, nothing like that. I just want to, help the people that actually want to be helped. And that's my goal, is to create that perspective, awareness, and potentially help guide and mentor people in that way. Like, we all need mentors in our life, right? We all need people who are further ahead of us so that we can take that perspective and go further faster, right? Further faster is it's an important thing to consider. So, oh my gosh, I got that book too. So my goal is to keep these under 10 minutes, but that's not going to happen today, but that's okay. We're just about to get to 10-minute mark. So I saw a quote on Instagram from Russell Brunson this morning, and it inspired me. And so I actually looked it up, and it's a Jim Carrey quote. And the quote is, once you truly don't care what anyone thinks of you, you've reached a dangerous level of freedom. And that's so interesting in so many ways. It's so provocative because when you think about freedom, what is freedom? Well, freedom's in your mind. I mean, we're all politically free in North America for the most part. We're all economically free in North America. I mean, we have the means to go and create whatever economic means that we want to create. We have the freedom to do that. We've got economic freedom. We've got mostly political freedom. And I just heard actually in China, in Hong Kong, they just passed a security law that now bans and restricts people in Hong Kong from speaking out against China. And apparently it's a lifetime sentence if you're going to get caught speaking out against China, which is just, I mean, that's not freedom, right? I mean, America is the epitome of freedom, and I'm up here in Canada, kind of riding off the back of the Americans. I'd actually like to go down to the States and see what's going on down there. You know, I'm kind of frustrated at this, some of the things going on in Canada, right? But I guess, you know, it's have to be grateful for really what we have, because I think it's probably one of the safest countries in the world, and I'm grateful for that. So I don't want to sound unkindly towards my country, but I just really respect America and the amount of freedom that they've been able to create for their people. And so speaking of, you know, back to the quote, once you truly don't care what anyone thinks of you, man, so many people worry about what other people think, huh? Isn't that the truth, right? And once you're truly not caring about what, and I don't think you want to 100% not care, but it's important to live your own truth and be authentic to who you are. And that's what creates that level of freedom, that dangerous level of freedom. And that's so important. And for me, one of the things is sometimes, I guess it might be stemming from like a lack of belief, but sometimes I feel, and this is vulnerability here, right? Like I'm just sharing from my open heart. Sometimes I feel like maybe I just don't have the value to provide for people such as yourself. And what, you know, my wife tells me, and you know, I know inherently deep down that I've got value, but sometimes I'm almost sheepish about it. I'm like apologetic, and I'm like, oh, really? Like maybe I can help other people, but and just I think having that belief is just so important, because that's what creates that confidence, you know. And so that's something that I want to work on is being less apologetic and more confident in my belief of the value that I can add. And so once you, coming back again to this quote, like this is quote of the freaking century almost, like this quote of the day. Thank you, Jim Carrey. Once you truly don't care what anyone thinks of you, you've reached a dangerous level of freedom. It's incredible. Just let that sit in, sink in. So how I wanted to relate that to this book, which is called The Go-Giver, Bob Burg and John David Mann wrote. And The Go-Giver is, the subtitle doesn't really make sense, so I'm not even going to bother reading it. But in the book, they have these 5 stratospheric laws of success. And I think I'm actually probably going to make a podcast about each of these laws, because they're pretty powerful, pretty provocative. Very simple, yet provocative. And that's always the good thing about teaching, is it's being simple. So number 4 is the law of authenticity. And the subtitle of that law is the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Isn't that the truth? The law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And that relates to yesterday's podcast, YouTube. I guess I'll just refer to it as show. This is the Motivation Mindset 365 show. So thanks for being here. And the law of authenticity. The greatest gift you have to give is yourself. So powerful. Yesterday I talked about Brene Brown. You can check that one out. Vulnerability. And actually that's interesting that I guess I'm just kind of on that wavelength right now, because I think the title of that show, I named it Vulnerability is about authenticity. And now I didn't even realize that until right now, but the law of authenticity is it's powerful stuff. And I think we all have to, you know, it's I'm reminded of Viktor Frankl's work, some of Viktor Frankl's work. If you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning, that is one of the top 10 books of all time. It's incredible. It talks about his journey through Auschwitz death camps, basically, in the Nazi Germany during the World War II. And he was a Jewish psychologist and wrote this incredible piece. And he also did work, because he survived. He also did a lot of work after the fact, after the war. And one of the pieces that he created was, it was kind of this, almost like a cone, if you want to imagine two lines moving away from a singular point. And the top line, I can't remember what work this was. I saw it on a video, it might be on YouTube somewhere. But so maybe if you type in Viktor Frankl authenticity, it might be there. And I'll search for it, and I'll see if I can include the link in the show notes there for you. But essentially, there's two lines, and the top line is kind of societal obligation or societal sort of fitting in with the crowd. And then the bottom line was your true authentic self. And I guess the journey is kind of like, it's trying to figure out a good position to be in, to travel between these two lines to fit in to a certain degree, but also to fit in with yourself and be true to who you are. And sorry, I should get used to looking at this side of the camera here. And so ultimately you want to try and keep as close to the authentically you line as possible, which I think was the bottom line, but also trying to maintain some semblance of fitting in with society so that you're not a total, could say a bad word, but, total dickhead, right? Like, you don't want to be a total dick. And it's funny because, shout out to Craig and the team there at the gym. They were saying James did a total power move, and I'm kind of embarrassed to talk about this, but I rode in on my motorcycle late. I didn't mean to be late, and I parked right in front because it's a motorcycle. And then after the workout, because it was Canada Day, July 1st, and so I had a hamburger and a hot dog, and then I had to jet. I had a phone call at 12:30 for business that I had to take, and so they were like, "Oh man, that was such a power move," and really what it was if you think about it and you're honest about it, it was a little bit of a dick move, right? Like it was, but it wasn't really, like it was just kind of joking and whatever. But if I was more so, like if I was like being a bum and knocked over the water cooler on the way out or something like that, and so it's like, how do I be myself with fitting into societal standards? So that's the journey, it's like figuring out how to be myself and yet at the same time, how to fulfill my obligation to be part of this thing called society, which sometimes I don't think anybody wants to be in. I shouldn't say that. Sometimes it's like, I ask myself, like, oh man, like, why are there rules? Why are there laws? Like, and I get it, obviously, but sometimes it's like, I just don't want to play by those rules. I want to play by my own rules. And so it's fun, but we'll keep pumping out some great content here for you daily, 365. And I'm your host, James Christopher. Thanks so much for being a part of this show. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you get notified every day when we have new content coming out. And please leave us a comment, leave us a review if you're listening to this on podcast. And we would love to hear from you. And feel free actually to take a screenshot of that review and post it on our Instagram page at motivationmindset.365. Would love to shout you out. Would love to see those reviews. And thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for being here. And hope you enjoy this as much as I do. So thanks so much, and have a great day. All right. Happy 4th of July, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.